So if you would like to start, the topics that appeared, I'm still collecting the topics. In speaking part 1, the new topics that have been reported as handwriting, science, shoes, headphones, colors, and concentration. So these 3, I think I didn't send you yesterday because I didn't have them yet. So headphones, colors, and concentration. Shoes, this was a topic that was used in 2018. Concentration was used in 2019. Handwriting and science were also used in 2019. I already have the materials for these topics, but as I collect them in a week, I will send them to you all. Then in speaking part 2, the new topics are getting up early at the crack of dawn, person who offered a clever solution to a problem, business person you admire, exciting book, cafe you like, being friendly with someone you dislike, good service you received, and difficult question, and famous athlete. Okay, so those who, if you would like to start, if you're ready to start, could you please put 2 pluses in the chat box? And I will unmute you, or maybe you'll unmute yourself, and we can start practicing with you. So if you would like to start, just put 2 pluses in the chat box if you're ready. So nobody wants to speak today. Okay, Victoria. Okay, so I'll try to unmute you, or you can.
I can unmute myself.
Okay, great.
Hello.
Yeah. So did you prepare any speaking topics for today, or we can choose any?
Yes, I prepared hometown.
Hometown. Okay, so these first 4 topics, they never change, and well, they are used always in all seasons. However, in speaking part 1, the examiner is only going to ask you 1 or 2 questions from here, then and then 2 topics from this collection. For example, handwriting and shoes, or maybe barbecue and environmental protection. So as for hometown, we will practice maybe 5 questions, but the examiner will only say, will only ask you 2 questions maximum, maybe only 1. So, right, please describe your hometown a little.
Well, my hometown is Moscow. The city I came from is Moscow. Since it's the capital of Russia, it's home to the government and all major institutions. Also, it has very rich history. Every street in the heart of Moscow is steeped in history. That is why it's hugely popular with tourists. And what I personally like the most about Moscow is that all necessary facilities are within commuting distance. I've been living in Moscow my entire life.
Thank you. Okay, this is part 1. Actually, I stopped you too late. The examiner will ask you the next question after 2 sentences. It's not a monologue. It's just part 1. So it may be 2 or 3 sentences only. Now, is Moscow a big city or a small place? It's a funny question if you take your exam in Moscow, but still, this is a real IELTS question. Is it a big city or a small place?
As I've already told you, that's the capital of Russia, and it's the home to the government and all the major institutions in Russia. So it's a very large city.
The next question after 2 sentences. It's not okay. It's not a monologue. It's just part 1. All right. Okay. Now, how has your town changed over the last 20 years?
Well, Moscow has always been a bustling and densely populated city. However, over the last 20 years, it has undergone sweeping changes. Moscow has become even busier than it used to be. A lot of skyscrapers have been erected, many ancient buildings have been restored, and so on.
Okay. Now, do you think you will continue living there for a long time in the future?
Well, living in Moscow is like love-hate relationship. One day I might want to move somewhere else, but now I think that it's a very good place for me, and I'm not going to leave it in the foreseeable future.
Okay, very nice. So you use some nice, really nice expressions like it is steeped in history, well, foreseeable future, and so on. So these are nice expressions, nice collocations. What I would like you to concentrate on a bit more is using a range of grammar structures. So not just Moscow is a big city. Moscow, there are a lot of governmental buildings in Moscow, but use some relative, for example, relative clauses. Moscow, which is the capital of Russia, is a huge city, or is a densely populated city, or whatever. Well, maybe also inversion or something else. So just a bit more grammar. And well, your fluency is also fine. Now, did you prepare a part 2 speaking topic?
Yeah.
Just tell us what it is. You'll do it in the second round, but just tell us what the topic is.
I prepared city, what city I would like to live in the future.
Okay. Are you going to take your exam before December, before the end of December?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So you'll still have this topic and some more. So these 25 topics that are here, well, they will all be used till the end of December. And for those who are going to take your exam after December, you only concentrate on these new topics, and I'm still collecting them, so I'm not ready. With the list, there'll be 25 new topics and 25 not so new that will only last till December. So if you're taking your exam after the end of December, there'll be these topics, and instead of these topics, there'll be 25 more. Okay, so yes, we'll listen to you in the second round. Thank you. Now, Daniil, can you be the next, please? Can I ask you to unmute yourself? Okay, well, I can't hear anything from Daniel. If you have problems with microphone. Okay, Oleg, so you can now unmute yourself, or I will. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So did you prepare any topics for today?
No.
Okay, so choose one: handwriting, science, shoes, headphones, colors, or concentration.
Let's talk about headphones.
Okay, headphones. Headphones. So do you use headphones?
Yes, I really prefer to use headphones while I'm struggling through my own town. I like to not only to listen to the music, but I also like to hear some podcasts.
Okay. Now, so in what situations would you use headphones?
What I personally like about headphones is that you can use it just everywhere and every time. If you want to talk with your relatives by phone in a very noise place, you can use your headphones also.
Okay. So what type of headphones do you use?
I'm using very big and this type of headphones called grill headphones. It is a little bit something similar to analogy to the barbecue form of how it look like. Okay.
Okay. So in what situations would you not use headphones?
I think it's vital not to use your headphones when you talk to other people, because any conversation cannot survive without respect to one another, and headphones is a form of disrespect.
Okay, right. So, well, these are all the questions that have been reported so far on this topic. Now, when you talk about, well, using headphones, maybe you can say that I like turning off the distractions around, or if you want to be more poetic, you can say, I like creating my own work zone amidst, means among, amidst the office chaos, right? Talking about types of headphones, be prepared. It's a real question that was reported by candidates. That's earbuds, wireless headphones, noise canceling headphones. That's what you can say. And also, you'll have a chance to listen to the recording. Pay attention to your fluency. There are too many hesitations. Okay, so that's what we need to work on also outside of class. Try to speak in front of the mirror. And yeah. Now, can you choose a topic for part 2? So while other people are speaking, you can prepare, you can take some notes about what you're going to say.
Let's talk about getting up early.
Okay, so here I would recommend you to use the expression, for example, ni свет ни заря. Well, I really like it, at the crack of dawn. Or you can say at an ungodly hour, в небожеский час. Okay, so I will copy the card into the chat box. Okay, where's the chat box? And while other people are speaking, please try to prepare. Yes, Daniel, I can see your message that you're not ready, but you don't have to be ready. You can just answer the questions on the spot without preparation. And I will just show you how you can improve. So if you wish, you can be the next, or if you want, I can also give you a monologue and you can prepare while other people are talking. And at the end, you can try to produce it. So just type, if you want to just to listen, just type in the chat box, I want to listen, and that's all. It's also fine. Right, so Victoria and Oleg have spoken. Now, Zarina, can you please be next? Can you unmute yourself?
Okay.
Yes.
Hello.
Okay, so Daniel wants to listen. There will be just three participants so far. Maybe someone else will show up. Okay. So did you have time to prepare any speaking topics for part 1?
I didn't, but I think let's talk about science.
Okay, so let's talk about science. Nice. So science. Do you like science?
Yes, I'm really keen on science, and I'm delighted with the fact that we have achieved so much in science by the 21st century.
Okay. Then, did you like science classes when you were younger?
When I was in school, I used to visit chemical classes, and I really enjoyed experiments. It was very exciting for me. In fact, it determined my future profession, and now I'm working as laboratory assistant in the Geological Institute.
Okay. So do you think school children should have both science classes and art classes?
Yes, I agree with it. I believe that children should have a chance to develop different sides of them, and not everyone is given to become artist or scientist.
Okay. Now, do you think science is important to our society?
Yes, science is a vital thing in our society, and as I said before, we achieved science like engine. We achieved many things due our brain.
Okay. Right. Okay, well, these are all the questions that I have at the moment. So a few commentaries from me. Now, when you talk about, well, I am keen on science, not just keen, but I am keen on science. Some expressions that I would well, it doesn't mean it's necessary to use them, but I would recommend you to use these expressions. So it covers, well, science covers a variety of research areas. So its clarity is addicting or addictive. You probably wouldn't say chemical classes, because maybe chemical substances, but if it's the name of the subject, you just say chemistry classes, biology classes, not biological. Right? Then when talking about arts and sciences, you could use this word разносторонний. So a child should become a versatile person, or you can say a well-rounded person. There's another good expression. One more idea. Science transforms our world at an incredible pace. So when I'm ready with my materials, which is, I think, in about 10 to 15 days, I'm going to send you, a bigger list of ideas for each of these topics. So, by the way, are you planning to take your IELTS before the end of December or after?
Before, I think.
Okay, well, that's good. So it means that all the topics that that I'm collecting now, so the second half, it's ready. It's since the last season is the same. They will last till December, and these topics are for you also. And this list, I'm still collecting it. As soon as I have it, I'm going to send it to you together with vocabulary and ideas. Okay, and some sample answers, but you don't need to memorize them. It's just an example. Now, can you please prepare? Can you please choose a topic for your monologue? Because while other people are talking now, are answering their monologues, you can prepare something on your own. Just choose any topic, and I will copy the cue card, into the chat box for you.
Okay, let it be exciting book.
An exciting book. Okay, so there are some nice expressions talking about books. It's a page turner. A page turner is something, a book that makes you turn pages. That's a page turner. You can mention that the book had an intricate plot, and maybe you read this book from cover to cover in one sitting. So I was literally glued to the book, or I was literally glued to the sofa while I was reading the book. Okay, so I will copy this cue card into the chat box. And you can copy it, and while other people are speaking, you can take some notes. At the exam, we'll have 1 minute. Now we have a few minutes. Okay, so now, Victoria, can you please unmute yourself, and we'll practice speaking part 2.
Okay.
Speaking part 2, that's about
The city.
Yes, about a city where you want to live. Describe a city where you want to live in the future. You should say what city it was, when you went there, what you did there, and why you liked it. Okay, so if you're ready, please start.
Ever since I can remember, I've always dreamt of living in London. I have, frankly speaking, I had a chance to visit it once several years ago, and it impressed me a lot. Unfortunately, I couldn't spend much time there because I only had a connection flight in London when I was going to Jamaica. Anyway, I had about 10 hours to explore the capital of Great Britain. I sauntered a lot within the center of London and saw firsthand all the most famous sightseeings in London. What surprised me most is that it has several green zones. That's why it doesn't look like concrete jungle. I was in London in summer and will never forget leafy and picturesque Guide Park. Although I'm fond of nature and places where I can get a lungful of fresh air, I realized that I can't survive without creature comforts. So a full access to urban services outweighs, personally for me, all the disadvantages of living in a big city.
Okay. You can also say the eclipse, the outweigh or the eclipse. Okay, brilliant. So you've used some really nice expressions like to saunter, that's to walk, an advanced expression which means to walk. Then what surprised me most, there was a cleft sentence, concrete jungle. You had nice fluency, so you do not hesitate for 4 seconds. Sometimes actually you can make a pause. I don't mean to say that you can never pause when you speak. Sometimes you can use pausing for thinking or for some rhetorical purposes. For example, you can say, well, let's say I like books, theater, and of course, and then you make a pause. I don't know, vodka, whatever you want to say. Right, now I'm going to ask you some part 3 questions related to this, to the topic cities. But I have to warn you that unlike topics in part 1 and part 2, questions in speaking part 3 do not exist in nature, because during the exam, examiner has some prompts. And looking at these prompts, and depending on the level of your answer, the examiner creates the questions at the exam. So, of course, if we have the questions that were asked, we can know what the prompts were. So the questions I'm going to ask you are examples of real questions that were asked at real IELTS exams in recent weeks. And so, but it doesn't mean you'll have exactly the same questions in part 3. In part 1, they'll be the same, maybe slightly different. In part 2, there are exactly these 50 topics that you will receive, and there will be no topic 51. So only these topics. But in speaking part 3, also the topics will be the same. There will be no new topics, but the questions might be different. So what I'm asking you is just an example. That's why I never ask you to prepare these topics, these questions before the lesson, just because, well, you'll answer any different questions. So you'll practice now answering them on the spot. So what are the differences between the young and old when choosing where to live?
In my humble opinion, young people often choose places which can provide the inhabitants with all the entertainment facilities. And as for old people, they usually prefer quiet places, quiet towns, not big cities, where they can rest and have a peaceful years. Have peaceful years.
Maybe you can use the word tranquil or tranquility, and instead of saying and elderly people, you can say while elderly people. So just use a contrast clause. Okay, so what are some factors that attract people to settle down in some places?
Well, it depends on the person, I think, but usually, as I've already said, young people prefer places when they can have a lot of fun, when they can communicate with each other much, and old or mature people, they prefer some quiet places they can where they can feel comfortable, feel separate, maybe separate from other people. So it depends on the character of a person.
Okay, so it happens very often in IELTS speaking, especially in part 3, when they ask you a question and you want to answer, well, it depends. And this can be some kind of an introduction to your answer. So like, well, it depends. But I recommend to use the following phrases. It's down to an individual in question. Or you can say, there is no straightforward answer to this question, or there are no straightforward answers to this question. Or you could say,
please write down these sentences if you can.
Actually, am I not sharing this with you?
Yeah, sure, but I
Oh,
couldn't
you mean you want me to
to
copy
write down, to type these sentences.
Yes, but can you see them on the screen right now?
No.
No? What about others? Can you see these expressions that I'm writing on the screen?
Yeah, I see it's down to an individual
Okay.
question. Yeah, see.
So you will also see them on the recording, and yeah, I can copy all these in the chat box at the end if you want, like all the expressions.
Now I see. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's down to an individual question. There is no straightforward answer to this question. Or you can say there are no cut and dried answers. Выраженные высушенные ответы. So there are no cut and dried answers to this question. Or you can say there is no one fits all answer. There is no one fits all answer to this question. Yeah. Right. And then, yeah, you could also talk about affordability in terms of price, because, you know, prices in this day and age are very often exorbitant. This vocabulary can be used in many different topics when you want to say that something is, let's say, expensive. So yeah, exorbitant prices, or you could say extortionate prices are so extortionate that you have to shell out, and or you have to fork out, and not everyone is ready to fork out when it costs an arm and a leg, or it costs a pretty penny. Maybe only, you would say rich people, but I would recommend to say only opulent people. So it costs an arm and a leg, and then only opulent means rich. Opulent or affluent people can afford it in pecuniary terms or in monetary terms. Pecuniary means financial. In pecuniary terms or in monetary terms. Okay, so Victoria, let's continue. I see you have unmuted yourself, but I have some more questions in part 3 for you.
Okay.
So is it possible that all of the population moved to cities?
Well, I think that it's far from reality, and the chances of that all the people will live in big cities is not so big, because there are always some people that prefer quiet, small cities, small towns, or even villages. They will always want to have their own territory. I mean, living in their own part of Earth, if it can be.
A lot of land, probably.
Yeah. So I think that the chances are not very high.
Okay. I would recommend you to use this collocation, utter tranquility. So some people enjoy utter tranquility, and they can't stand the hustle and bustle of a big city. So there's another expression that you could have used here too. So what changes do you think would make cities better places to live?
Well, it's not the secret that many cities suffer from carbon dioxide and other types of pollution. There is noxious smoke shrouding big cities, and if this problem was ecologically solved, big cities could become the best place to live, with all the facilities that they can provide people with.
Okay. So you can also mention like traffic congestion. And for example, because people in modern cities, they have to spend hours and hours in bumper to bumper, stop and go traffic, bumper to bumper, stop and go traffic. так что не видно ни конца и края. And there is no end in sight. So bumper to bumper, stop and go. Traffic, and there is no end in sight. There is no end in sight. Okay. Yeah, you mentioned carbon dioxide. So I believe it's quite a good idea to mention the names of greenhouse gases, because technically they are uncommon lexical items. So we have air contamination, and the air is polluted with carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, and methane and ozone. Yeah, so these are technical words from chemistry that you can also use. Okay, and the last question. So, is it good for elderly people to live in large cities?
Well, on the one hand, all the facilities and amenities of big cities can provide in fact, maybe luxurious living for elderly people that can make them feel comfortable and get help whenever they want. But on the other hand, big cities have their disadvantages. For example, there are many people, and the life in big cities is quite stressful. So elderly people would like to have some more quiet place to live.
Okay. Right. Okay, thank you. So that is the end of your speaking test. Now, Oleg, let's continue with you. The topic was, your topic was an occasion when you got up extremely early. So if you're ready, please start speaking.
I was asked to describe a time when I woke up very early, and in the beginning I thought that it would be better if I will talk about my regular day when I woke up at 6 a.m. and travel to university usually. But then I understood that I should better talk about one specific case when me and my friends we made some voyage to fishing lake to the fishing, and it must have been around a fortnight ago when my friends awoke me very early. He told me that now it's 3 a.m. and we should travel now because we do not have a car. We didn't have a car, and now the prices for the car are really exorbitant, and it costs a pretty penny to young people to travel to the countryside by car. Only opulent people can afford it. So we just use our time as our reserves to get to the fishing zone. And I felt that hardly had I opened my eyes when I realized that it will take a few days for me to restore the mode of my regular life. And such early risings are not helpful to keep my stamina and my body resources in great quality.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Okay.
recommend you to sleep more than 8 hours a day.
All right. It was more than 2 minutes. I didn't stop you for the simple reason that at the exam you'll be able to produce maybe 60% of what you said. Okay. I would really love to hear the expressions like at the crack of dawn or at an ungodly hour instead of very early or at 6 a.m. or together with these expressions. You could have used some proverbs even. Like I can venture a guess that the proverb early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise, or the early bird catches the worm. So I can venture a guess that this proverb is still true in this day and age. Okay, it's just an opportunity for. Then I thought it would be better if I talked, not if I would. After if there is no will, there is no would. Just but then I thought it would be better if I talked about. Yeah, I could have talked about going to the university when I travel by crowded buses in the peak hour where people are packed like sardines. That's what you can also say. And now let me continue your story. So that you traveled by car, that your car broke down, but you borrowed another car from a friend for a trip which you had been planning. I'll say which I had been planning for a long time. Actually, so if you're interested, on my YouTube channel, about a year ago, there was a topic, trip by car, or a journey by a vehicle that broke down. So I had to ask my friend for a loaner, but hardly had I seen that car when my heart was in my mouth, and I was full of trepidation because I could see full well that the whole car was nothing more than a lemon. We couldn't have driven for more than 50 miles when the engine started acting up, or playing up. And finally, it gave up the ghost with a stentorian sound. Stentorian means very loud. So you can find all this vocabulary in this video. I will not write it now, but you can incorporate this story into many topics because you often travel somewhere and you say, so, okay, and finally it gave up the ghost. So we found ourselves in the middle of nowhere. Luckily, the other friend who was traveling with me had been a car mechanic in his youth. I asked him what the problem was. He looked at me and said that the whole car was a problem and it had to be taken away to by a tow truck to scrap heap years ago. It wouldn't start for all the money in the world. However, we were lucky in our misfortune because my friend came up with a quick and dirty solution to the problem, and we arrived at our final destination safe and sound. You probably will not be able to say all this, but maybe you can also mention some parts of a car. Not only were the windscreen wipers out of order, but even the gloves box wouldn't get locked properly. So if you mention, sorry?
Gloves box?
Yeah, bardachok, that's gloves box. So any parts of the car that you know in English, just mention that they didn't work. And your lexical resource will improve this way. There is a legend that in order to get high score, you only need topical vocabulary. So if you talk about getting up early, you need to speak about getting up early. No, if you use advanced vocabulary and you managed to mention some types of meat, like venison or mutton or veal or whatever, then your score will also improve, as long as you're talking about getting up early. Okay, so part 3 questions related to this. Why do people get up early?
I wholeheartedly believe that the only and the core reason for people to get up early is due to their work or the study of the way how do they do their activity. So there are only some basic needs which can provoke people to sleep less than their need.
You can also say that some people believe that being a morning person is inextricably linked to success in the minds of many people. So here's an expression: inextricably linked, тесно связано, неразрывно связано. Okay, so do young people in your country stay up late at night?
Yes, it's really country-wide case to Russia that young people are playing computer games or just watching some videos on YouTube. They are just spending their life to like a waste, and so they broke the mode of their lifestyle. Yes, it's very spread case.
Okay, all right. Then you could also have used the expression to burn the midnight oil. It means not to sleep at night, and maybe because you work, maybe because you prepare for an exam, maybe because you have an all-nighter. An all-nighter is an all-night party. So it's to burn the midnight oil. There's also an idiom here. At the crack of dawn and to burn the midnight oil. Take the examiner by the throat so that he or she gives you a good mark in lexical resource. Okay, then is it easy to get up early?
I would say that I remember one case when I haven't kept my eyes open for 16 hours, and it was hard. It was harder to me to wake up when I slept more than 8 hours than when I sleeping less than 8 hours.
Okay, so what are some good synonyms for difficult or hard? So if anybody knows, you can also write it in the chat box.
Yes.
So if you want to say that something is difficult, you can say it's a daunting task to wake up early or to wake up at the crack of dawn. It's a daunting task. Or you could say it's a formidable challenge. If you want to say that something is easy, you can say it's a piece of cake. But don't do this too much. Okay, what's this? Challenging. Yeah. Yeah, I think if you say formidable challenge is better than just challenging. Challenging means difficult and interesting at the same time. So yeah, it can be technically it can be used as a synonym for difficult. Yeah, but don't use too many idioms in one sentence, because sometimes I hear answers from students like, well, mathematics at school was a piece of cake for my classmates, but it wasn't my cup of tea. So that is probably too much. Okay, complicated. Yes, Victoria, that's also a better word than difficult, but not so advanced. So complicated, the student already knows, and well, we need something from C1 level or if C2 ideally. And I would recommend this: daunting task and formidable challenge. But of course, if you say complicated, it's better than saying than if you say difficult. Okay, and do you know anyone who gets up early?
Sorry, please repeat.
Yes. At the exam, it would be better to say, would you mind repeating the question? It's slightly more advanced with gerunds and so on. Okay, so do you know anyone who gets up early?
Yes, and the most salient and telling example of that person is me, because what I personally doing like every day, I woke up at 7:30 and I just doing some gym some sports in gym. I'm going to the gym, and there are some immeasurable benefits of getting up early, and I know it by myself.
Okay, so when you mention that you go to the gym, just for your lexical resource, mention what kind of things do you do at the gym? Not many people know this, but push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups. Yeah, continue.
No.
Squats, lunges, we put the barbell squats, dumbbell squats. Yeah, then I use, then I do some CV exercise or cardiovascular exercise, and I use the treadmill. So yeah, exercise bike, stair steppers, and rowers. Stair stepper and rowers. So it doesn't take.
Or logging.
I'm sorry.
Тренажер логинг or logging такой.
Тренажер is training machine or exercise machine. Okay. Right. So thank you. That is the end of your speaking test. And okay, now Zarina, can you please unmute yourself?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So your topic was, let me see, describe an exciting book you read. Okay. So if you're ready, please start.
Okay, thank you. Let's talk about books. Honestly, I'm rarely read fiction now, but about a year ago, one of my friends recommended me one, and he promised that I will be very impressed. This book has shaken me to the bottom of my soul, and I would like to tell you about it. This is book in the genre of science fiction, and it's written by Stanislav Lem. Its name is Solaris. This book made me literally stick to it, glued to it. It describes a completely different world on another planet. The whole planet is an ocean, and it's a small, very small spaceship there with scientists inside, scientists who study this planet and live there. And in this book, the events only define explanations. The book is full of philosophy and an interesting narrative with fantastic events. The ocean is represented by a big mystery, and even in the end, I must say, it stay for me as mystery. After reading it, I thought about this book maybe about 1 week or more. And now Stanislav Lem is one of my favorite writers, and already I have read many of his works. And of course, I recommend this book to all of my friends. That's all.
Thank you. So yes, when I say honestly, of course you can say that. But if you say to be honest, it's also nice. But if you say to be brutally honest, that's a collocation that is usually studied at C1 or C2 levels. And it's the words brutally and honest separately, they're quite simple. But when you put them together for the examiner, that's a sign that you are, well, one of the, well, if there are more words like this and more collocations like this and you're speaking, then it's just one of the signs that your level is advanced or higher. So to be brutally honest. Now, my friend promised that I would be really impressed because he promised in the past. So you're going to say will. It's called future in the past. Now, how do you pronounce this word? Genre. How do you say it? Genre. No, it's a special word. It's pronounced genre.
Genre.
You can find it in the dictionary as pronounced genre. It comes from French and it has this peculiar pronunciation. Now, maybe there was a pronunciation mistake. Написан кем-то. How do you pronounce it?
Written by.
Written by. Okay. Now, you could have used, maybe this book has a twist ending. Well, it doesn't have a twist ending. Just just mention this phrase, or an intricate plot. It has an intricate plot, or it doesn't have an intricate plot. Now, can you pronounce this word, please?
Weave.
What's wrong? This sound, the, you pronounce it with your tongue between your teeth. And if you say with instead of with, then this is one of the sounds that can change the meaning. Instead of we're thinking, you can hear we're sinking. Yeah, maybe you can watch this this ad on YouTube. It's called "What Are You Thinking About?" When the ship was sending an SOS message and say we're sinking, and the operator didn't speak English well. Said, "What are you thinking about?" Yeah, how do you pronounce событие?
Event.
Yes.
Event. Yes.
So once you pronounce it correctly, event. But the second, I mean, the second time was correct, but the first time was wrong. So the stress is on the second syllable. Okay. Then after reading it, it's perfectly correct. But you could have used perfective participle here. Having read it, I must have thought about it for a fortnight. So fortnight is an advanced expression, an advanced word, which means 2 weeks. So I don't know if you know it, but now I think you know it. You can start many of your part 2 monologues with saying when this happened. It must have been around a fortnight ago, or it must have been around a fortnight ago when this happened. So you'll use modal verb, perfect infinitive, and the word fortnight. Okay, so do you have any questions? Oh, we also have part.
Everything is clear. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll also have part 3 about reading. Just let me ask you. Oh no, we don't. Actually, these questions haven't been reported, but okay. I can create something. Well, in the style of IELTS. Do you think that books will disappear in the future?
To be brutal honest, I don't think so. To be
brutally honest. Yeah, I'm sorry for interrupting.
To be brutally honest, I don't think so, absolutely, because I think, I suppose books is a vital thing in our life and way make our brain, how to say?
Okay, so
make our brain wider.
Okay, right. So an empty head is the beginning of wisdom, as the proverb says. Yes, when you say, to be brutally honest, I don't agree with this, you can say, I'm leaning towards a negative answer. If you want to say something like no, if you want to say something like yes, because I'm leaning towards a positive answer. That's a good phrase for your speaking. Now, books are, not is. And I want to hear you pronounce these 2 words. What's the difference in pronunciation if you pronounce them together?
Way and they.
Yeah, now it's perfectly fine. But before this, actually, when you said they, I heard way, and I think other students, they also heard it. An examiner will notice this because this sound, if you mispronounce it, it changes the meaning. So it's going to influence your pronunciation score significantly. And your pronunciation is 25% of your mark, the same as grammar, the same as vocabulary. So these sounds between your teeth that you pronounce between your teeth are, well, vital for your pronunciation score. Okay, right. So, well, thank you all for participation. If you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and ask me now.
How to improve my pronunciation?
Okay, well, basically with your articulation, you don't need to worry about anything, but just it's just the pronunciation of this sound. So you put your tongue between your teeth, and you open your teeth as if you're brushing them, and then say th. Just try to do it. Th.
Th.
Yeah, and now try to do the same with your voice. So it's th, the.
Th, the.
Yeah, now you pronounce it correctly. So all you need to do now is just to pay special attention to this. Record yourself, choose a part 2 to speaking topic, record yourself, listen to yourself, and pay attention to this sound in particular. So this is one aspect of your pronunciation. So your pronunciation should not impede communication, which means that it shouldn't stop the examiner from understanding you because of pronunciation mistakes. So if you have clear pronunciation, that's a key to success. But the second aspect, that's, well, these are called pronunciation features, but because your examiners are not phoneticians, most of them, for them, it means intonation. Well, intonation and pauses where it's necessary to express some meaning. So by intonation, ordinary examiners understand that your voice goes up and down. So you're a bit more emotional than just speaking monotonously. You know, I've been asked to talk about an interesting event, and the event I can't help telling you about is, this is very monotonous. Pronunciation score will not be high if you speak like this. Just it's enough just to be a bit more emotional. Just enjoy this. This is a speaking test. The whole exam costs 15 to 18,000 rubles. You've paid for this, and now enjoy it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And
So
may I ask a question
yes,
too?
sure.
If I spoke like this in the exam, what score could I get, if you can tell me?
Okay, well, actually, it's very hard to do it right now because at the exam, I was a Cambridge speaking examiner, not an IELTS examiner, but there are also evaluation criteria. And actually, you need to do this exactly after this happens. I can only, so my evaluation now will be impressionistic. So it will be just based on the impression that I have after some time, because I spoke to small people. So what happens at the exam, examiner takes some notes, but well, I had some conversations with the IELTS examiners, and they said that actually we usually listen to the student in part 2 mostly, because this is where we can listen. In part 1 and in part 3, examiners think, okay, what am I going to say next? Okay, how many seconds can I let the student speak? What should I? So they don't really listen to you. So they listen to part 2. They evaluate grammar, vocabulary, fluency and coherence, and pronunciation. They give 4 marks. They don't calculate the final score. So I would estimate it as band 7 generally, but you need to understand that there were some things that you prepared, and that's why things like it was steeped in history. If you have another topic, you won't have, or unless you prepare all the topics that I'm going to send you, you won't have those advanced expression. And at a real exam right now, your score might be lower. Well, but right now I would estimate so as band 7. Use some really nice expressions. If you add some complex sentences, that will also improve your score more. So there were really no problems with pronunciation as far as I remember. But again, examiner listens to you, and then if necessary listens to the recording in 15 minutes after you leave the exam room. So after this, only after this do they give you a score. And maybe you can also use a wider range of linking words, not only linking words, but different linking devices, in particular linking words. Okay.
Okay.
But are you the one who ordered some individual classes with me also in access to? Okay, so we can. It means you can also record 12 topics. You can practice after I give you my materials. You can record 12 topics, and we can practice more topics during our private classes. Okay, so it means that you'll prepare many of the questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. All right. So, well, thank you all for participation. If there are any other questions, you can ask me. If not, then thanks again for participation, and see you in the next class.
Thank you. Goodbye.
And the next class will be on the next Friday.
Speaking practice class. Yes, it will be next Friday.
Okay.
For those who have, well, yeah.
Goodbye, Yuri.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.